Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Stassi. Thank you so much for being here today. I am very excited to have another episode in this mini series that we're going on, which is lore, townie, or any other form of anything in the Sims type of podcast. I literally screwed that up because I couldn't think of a third thing. That's where my brain's at, kiddos. I'm so excited to have Disney Sims, Mynameisgonz, and Nard back here today. So thank you guys so much for coming here today.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to learn more about spellcasters. My limited knowledge is pretty limited, that I know they're in a realm of magic. That's as limited as it gets.
I think that's what most people are.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So I'm ready to get some knowledge, but before we dive in, let's do a quick round of introductions. And Disney, you go first.
Hello, my name is Court, aka the Disney Sims, aka Townie Tales, and I love the Sims, and I'm an OG and cannot wait to talk about spellcasters. Yeah.
I love that. Hey. And congratulations on 1 year of Townie Tales.
Thank you.
How does it feel?
Oh, it feels great. I'm 4 seasons in now. And yeah, I absolutely love townies, love talking anything lore, and love being on podcast with my best friends. But more importantly, the lore guru, Mr. Gonz over here, he knows all of his things. I cannot wait to talk about this.
Well, I think that's no better introduction, my friend. Welcome back, and congratulations on making it to the EA Creator Network today. How'd that feel?
Thank you so much. Oh, it was so exciting. It was like a welcome surprise. It was something that I didn't expect. That I thought I'd maybe hear back in a couple of months or something like that. But it was so exciting. I'm mostly just secretly excited to play expansions before they come out, mostly, but no honestly, it's exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, I think one of the things about not being in the network that for a content creator has been tough is that when stuff comes out, you have to like make something instantly. Like every time that there's a trailer or a pack that comes out, I'm like there in the morning and I'm like writing something up really quickly because I need to get it out there by the time everyone else does. You know what I mean? So being able to actually like plan that behind and work with EA to really put that together, I think is going to be just so great for me. So honestly, it's the best.
Amazing. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell us a little about yourself before I move on to Nard?
Yeah, absolutely. So as it's been said a million times, Mynameisgonz, and that's actually my brand, which I always thought was weird. My official like name is Mynameisgonz, despite the fact that I get called Gonz all the time, but I prefer that. But yeah, I am a content creator and streamer. I deal with exclusively The Sims. You can find me everywhere as Mynameisgonz. I'm a big lore enthusiast, as we've talked about before. I love storytelling in every capacity, whether it's bios or lore from the Sims 2 or 3 or even the Sims 4, which I think is chock full of lore, as we're going to talk about today. I love stories. I love them so much. I think that's why I resonate with Townie Tales so much, because I love drama. I love tea like so much. I just in Spanish there's a phrase called chisme, right? CHISME, which basically means gossip. So here in Miami, you'll often see people be like, "Oh, give me the chisme," and it's and it's just great.
Amazing. Well, I cannot wait to dive into the lore of spellcasters.
Absolutely.
Last but certainly not least, fighting for most times on this podcast, Nardvillian. Coming in hot.
Coming in strong.
Coming in strong. How are you, my friend? Feel like a long time.
Feel like a long time, yeah.
Been a long time.
Trying to take that ring, I'm trying to be the #1 most person on the podcast. So I'm coming for that title.
He's trying to be the #1 guy in the friend group.
Yeah, there you go. Pretty much.
Disney knows exactly what that was. Nobody else knew. But anyone who watches VPR knows exactly what that comment was, which I'm very excited for VPR to come. That's a different podcast. Nard, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Alrighty. Sims 4 content creator, OG Simmer. Love the OG Sims. And I think it's because I used to grow up playing with G.I. Joes. That was my thing. G.I. Joes, wrestling figures. and I would always create little stories with my GI Joes and my wrestling figures. So when The Sims came out, it kind of reminded me of that. So because I'm huge into storytelling too, so any opportunity that I have to create a story it within a game, then that's going to be a game that I tend to lean to. So that's what it all started. You know, it started at the OG, played a little bit of Sims 2. Sims 3 didn't work for me. Then I jumped to Sims 4 because, well, Sims 3 didn't work for me because the computer that I had at the time, it didn't play Sims 3. So
Oh,
then I jumped to Sims 4 and then fell in love with it because it was, for me, it was kind of like, oh, I can create all these awesome stories, all that good stuff with the gameplay, you know, have a few babies here, you know, a few baby mamas in one little household, and I can kill a couple of them in this one, have a little dungeon in the back, you know, in the basement. And so and you know, then all of a sudden, long story short, all of a sudden the pandemic happened and I lost a lot of my creative outlets. Like, you know, I'm big into hospitality and stuff like that. So I was like, you know, maybe I'll just show the world, you know, what I'm capable of doing in the Sims community or the Sims world. And that's how it all started. So I like to make people laugh. I like to, you know, just, you know, make people laugh. I like to, you know, create little funny stories and stuff like that. And it seems to stick. And I like to share my knowledge too with the Sims 4. I mean, I'm not a big lore king or anything, but I know how to cheat and I know how to find those little secrets about the game. So I like to share that and stuff like that. But anyway, that's what I do. Sim skits and all that good stuff.
Amazing. Let's dive in, kiddos. Let's learn about spellcasters. Take it away, my friend.
All right. Yeah. So I think before we can really have a conversation about what, you know, the lore of the spellcasters, let's actually talk about what a spellcaster is, right? There's been a lot of debate over what is a spellcaster? Are they like a wizard? Are they like a witch? Like what exactly are they, right? Well, The Sims has historically had the concept of spellcraft throughout the Sims, right? Sims 1, Sims 2, Sims 3, that's what we've all had it. Making magic is probably like the greatest Sims expansion ever made, right? Like it was just fantastic all around. But in The Sims 4, of course, we have the spellcasters who reside in Glimmerbrook, right? And there's no denying, I think, and we can all agree that in The Sims 4, the primary influence of spellcasters as a whole is the Harry Potter franchise. I think that's pretty straightforward. That's what they're going with, right? Glimmerbrook is very like English countryside. The magic realm itself is very much reminiscent of Hogwarts and Diagon Alley, where you shop and buy things, right? That was their whole thing. What I think really surprises me when I first heard about the magic realm was that it's destroyed, right? And I think that's something that a lot of people see. In fact, they mention it in the trailer that the magic realm is destroyed and that there are 3 sages who are keeping it together, right? But that's all they ever give you. They like right then and there. They don't give you why it's destroyed or what happened or anything like that. Just that it seems to be like there's a vortex in the middle that's kind of sucking everything up, right? And we're introduced to 3 sages, right? The names, of course, of them being Morgan Ember, right? They are the blonde one with like the red coat. I'm not sure if y'all know exactly who I'm talking about. They're a fashion statement. I love them. Then of course you have Elphaba, who is a reference to Elphaba from Wicked, right? She's a very interesting design, like apropos of nothing. She's extraordinarily interesting of a design feature there. And then of course you have Simeon Silver Sweater. Yeah, which is a weird name. but that's of interest. But yeah, they're the 3 sages, and they're each corresponded to a different magic discipline within the Sims, right? And I think that's very important to note is that within the Sims, the magic concept, it's 3 schools, right? You have the Untamed, you have the Mischief, and then you have the Practical, right? The Mischief goes without saying, right? Mischief is like playing jokes and being naughty and bothering people, you know, just generally just using it as like a prankster magic. The Practical, of course, is like fixing things or creating things out of thin air. But it's the Untamed that is kind of going to be the basis of the lore conversation that we're going to have, right? Because the untamed magic is where you have a lot of the destructive magic, right? This is the magic that you can actually fight with, battle with. You're able to set fires and do like a bunch of very interesting things with it that I think really kind of sort of stand out, right? When I made my first when I made my very first spellcaster, I remember I wanted to make like a Dumbledore-esque kind of character. And I think I ended up at the end of all things making the most obnoxious like prankster I can think of, just because it was so fun to like mess with people with magic. And any idea I had about being a serious like player just went out the window the moment that I was first playing with it. You know what I mean? What were your experiences with making spellcasters?
Actually, yeah. So what I wanted to mention was I would like to actually tie this into Harry Potter again.
Oh, of
So
course.
3 different houses of magic there.
Mhm.
What do you think their corresponding Hogwarts house would be? I've given this a lot of thought. I
Sure.
want to go first. Okay.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
I personally think that Untamed Magic is like a combination of Slytherin and Gryffindor house.
Sure.
I think uh sorry, Mischief Magic is more like the Ravenclaw plus Slytherin. I feel like Slytherin is kind of divided amongst both, which I think is fitting because Slytherin is kind of a combination of Gryffindor and Ravenclaw because they're like brave but like cunning, witty. You know what I mean? Anyway,
Absolutely.
and then I think practical magic is straight up Hufflepuff, and yeah, that's
No,
my
I agree.
answer.
I think I agree 100%. I'm with you, like almost exactly there. Even I think even the characters that act as the sages very much are evident of that. You know, Morgan is very like very sort of prissy, kind of like very pompous. You know what I mean? And Elphaba is very kind of like you could just tell that there's a lot going on in her mind as she's walking around. She's also very sly, you know, so absolutely. I see that
And
100%.
evil. I think that's one of her traits. It's either evil or mean. I think no, it's mean. It's not
Yes.
evil. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. What I also loved about Morgan was Morgan. So, first sim to have they them pronouns, correct?
Yes.
And
Yes.
Morgan has dresses in masculine attire, but has a femme body, and it was the first time that they had done that in The Sims, which I really enjoyed that as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Morgan was created before they had introduced the concept of non-binary into The Sims, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's why they had a very sort of distinct edit within Kaz, right? So it was a point of conversation for sure. For sure. It's actually because a separate conversation, but it's actually because of The Sims that I've been like every time I research an NPC, I go into Kaz to actually look at like their pronouns and everything, because I've learned that they're actually very, very specific and detailed about that when you actually edit characters, which I think is fantastic.
Love it. Now, what house do you think you would be in?
Honestly, I see myself being very much in like the practical school of magic. That's where I see myself. I'm a very practical individual. I'm not mischief. I don't do mischief things. I know that's what you're thinking. I know that's what you're thinking. I'm not a mischief. That's Nard right there. Nard is mischievous.
Yeah, I think that would be me for sure. Where does which magic, which one will being able to like create like duplicates of food and stuff, which part of magic will
practical.
That's practical.
Okay, I want that one too though. I gotta have that one.
That would be convenient. Oh my god, never have to cook ever again. Just remake the same thing over and over again. What about you, Stassi?
Oh, Untamed.
Untamed?
Without a you can't tame me.
I don't know what house I'm in. I think I'm mischief still, personally.
I think so. I think that tracks for you. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So so going back to it, have you, with your experience with spellcasters, what was your kind of like your favorite characters that you made? Just like quick little, I'm curious if you made spellcasters before, how you played with them.
Me?
Yeah,
Or anybody. Okay.
Anybody.
When I first started making Rose Chronicles, before I made it as a story, they were all spellcasters because I didn't know that's what CC was at that time, so that's what magic was. I really much enjoyed it. I really liked like the duels and stuff, and getting to like their levels up and becoming like a higher spellcaster.
Sure.
I found that really fun. That's as far as I got, and then I got introduced to CC, and then that completely changed my life.
Got it. Makes sense.
For
Disney
me,
nerds, yeah.
With Disney Sims, I have my Pocahontas has mischief magic because Pocahontas translates to mischievous one. So she's lined up to be Elphaba's next sage in line in that story. And then Grace and Tomex Colette are also, they're in a throuple together. And they're all set to be the next sages in my story because in my story, they all retire similarly to how Morgan, Elphaba, and Simeon were. They have their successors to other people that we'll talk about later, I'm sure.
For sure.
And I have one legacy family. They're currently in Gen 6 right now.
Oh, wow.
And they are all spellcasters. But the only thing about it is I can't get them past the whole potion thing where they're making the whatever it is and that the big one.
Yeah.
And then I also have one of, I think the father is able to do the duplicates of food and stuff. So I was able to get him to finally do that. And then I have two kids that are in high school. One actually has the bloodline where he was able to inherit the trait, but then his brother, he's not able to do the spell casting stuff. So I guess he didn't get the trait or whatnot. So that's pretty much all I got to tell you for spellcasters. I'm all about the werewolves, but we'll talk about that on another one.
That was the purpose of my question, Nard, and thank you so much for getting on there. I think we're about to have a conversation about the lore of spellcasters, and by the end of this particular episode, we are going to come to the realization that spellcasters are the genesis of all occult sims, with the exception of aliens. Okay? And that's going to be a very kind of interesting thing that we're going to talk about. Okay? So, in order for us to understand spellcasters, we really need to go back. Okay, when you play in the werewolf expansion, right, in Moonwood Mills, you learn about the ancient Mesopotamians, and I always mess that up, right? But basically, it is an ancient civilization, very much based on like the Aztecs, right, the Central America Aztecs, where they had two very clear sort of beliefs. The first one, of course, was the breeding and raising of cow plants, right? Now that's a weird thing. I always thought that was interesting, but that was one of their aspects. And the second one was their reverence of wolves, right? So the ancient Mesopotamians used to venerate their wolf companions, and they also used to think that the moon, whenever it would like cast itself, it was like filling everybody with energy. Right? So they built these whole civilizations on these two foundations. Okay. Now, many decades later, right, we had the emergence of spellcasters within the Sims universe, right? They all congregated within Glimmerbrook, where they could safely practice their magic outside of prying eyes. All right. And this is actually why in the Glimmerbrook world, you have individuals who actually live there, and then the magic realm is like a separate aspect of it, right? Where Glimmerbrook is kind of like the front face of them, that if someone was to visit, they would just see it as a quirky little town. And then, of course, the real magic bastion would be within the magic realm. And of course, you can only access the magic realm one of two different ways, right? Either the portal in Glimmerbrook or teleporting directly there as a spellcaster, right? And that is effectively really where we learn about the spellcasters and where it kind of stops right at the base game, right? As we mentioned earlier, we learn that Glimmerbrook has a portal to the magic realm. The magic realm is destroyed, And you can join one of the 3 houses of magic where a sage is taking care of everything. And it is through their power that they're able to keep the magic realm in place, right? But there is actually, if you dive into the stories within the vampire expansion, the werewolf expansion, and the spellcaster expansion, you actually start to put together a story as to how the magic realm came to be and what exactly is the lore genesis of all of these life stages, occults of the Sims, right? So to get into that, um, early on in spellcaster lore, right, the magic realm wasn't what it is today. It was a full realm land where they were able to practice and fully engulf themselves in knowledge and the mastery of magic. Okay. And they were so committed to learning about magic that they would often find themselves not taking care of their basic needs like eating and sleeping and taking care of their families, right? So, in an effort to combat that, they came up with the most ingenious idea I had ever thought to think of, which was let's learn how to create clones of ourselves, right? So these ancient spellcasters began to create clones in the hopes that they would be able to keep focusing on their studies of magic, and then these clones would be able to go off and just do whatever it is that they wanted to do, right? Unfortunately, they failed to realize that their clones too would need things like food and water and sleep and everything like that, right? So it ended up creating much more of an annoyance to them, right? So they started to think, well, how can we take these clones and make it so that they don't need food or sustenance the way we would, right? And when they did that, they started feeding these clones potions and other magical items in the hopes of making them different, to sustain themselves differently, right? Unfortunately, this had unintended side effects, as these things usually do. And we ended up with these creatures who ended up turning on the spellcasters. So the clones of these individuals started to turn and attack the spellcasters. And when these clones drank the blood of the spellcasters, they became what we know today as vampires. And that is where vampires come into play in The Sims 4. Vampires are spellcasters. They are just these morphed beings. So somewhere out there, probably not alive anymore, was a spellcaster who looked a lot like Vlad, who wasn't Vlad.
Team
Right?
Vlad, baby.
So that's the thing. So someone that looked like Vlad created a Vlad, and then Vlad became a vampire and just did what he had to do, right? And if we tell ourselves, if we know that Vlad is the daddy of all vampires, I can't believe I said daddy, but there you go.
Abba!
Okay, if he's the daddy of all vampires, then that means that Vlad was one of these clones that rebelled against the spellcasters to become what he is today, right? That's what we know, right? Now, it unfortunately doesn't end there. Once these clones actually rebelled against the spellcasters, they felt slighted. They felt betrayed by their former masters to turn them into the things that they are today. So they actually created an offensive called Operation Eternal Flame. And you can find references to Operation Eternal Flame throughout books, both in the Magic Realm and also in the Vampire Pack, as well as the Werewolf one, actually, where you learn that these vampires built a literal front, an army, to fight against the spellcasters. And we got what ended up being a generations-long war of vampire versus spellcasters working to be the one who ended up winning this conflict, right? And that is where we have the spellcasters now in a situation, because vampires are eternal beings of pure power, right? And spellcasters, they're powerful too, but they weren't able to keep up, right? So they realized that in order to win in this battle, they needed to find another source of power. And that's when the spellcasters decided to look once again to our old ancient Mesopotamian friends for power, right? So they all traveled to Moonwood Mill. At the time, I'm sure it wasn't called Moonwood Mill, right? It was probably called something completely different, of which we don't know, right? And they started to learn about this ancient civilization. And as they were going through this ancient civilization, they were trying to find records, some kind of information of how this ancient civilization drew its power. And from there, we learned two things, as I mentioned earlier. First and foremost, they had the breeding and mastery of cow plants. And then, of course, we had those who believed in the reverence of the wolves. So some spellcasters decided, you know what, we're going to focus on this cow plant thing, and we're going to start just breeding cow plants and trying to do the best of them. And those became known as moo casters. That's a real thing. I'm not even lying. This is very serious things. Please don't laugh.
That's funny.
That's pretty funny.
All right. And then, of course, you had a separate group within the spellcasters who instead decided to focus on the reverence of wolves and the affection of the moon. These, of course, became known as moon casters. So you get it? Moon casters,
Yeah.
moo casters, right? They're very similar, right? Sims loves to play with words for some reason. But anyway, so we had an offset here, and these two worked together, right? You had one group who was learning everything they could about the power of the moon and the power of wolves. And these spellcasters even went so far as to have like wolf familiars. As you know, spellcasters can have familiars, and they chose, of course, to have wolves, right? And then you had the spellcasters, the moo casters, who had their cow plants, and together they actually pushed on the vampires with these new powers, and they were actually able to start making traction against them. They were actually winning this long war. But then something happened that they didn't expect, right? During a particular offensive, a cow plant accidentally killed one of the leaders of the mooncasters. Her name is actually referenced in the story itself. Her name is Yina Kai, right? She was accidentally killed. And when that happened, the mooncasters and the moocasters turned on one another, right? They're sort of, they became like almost a civil war within the spellcasters, with the vampires kind of benefiting from that, because the vampires saw like a civil war brewing within the spellcasters.
They
And
sitting
they
back
just
chilling, huh?
exactly, they were just like,
Watching
let
them
them
just
destroy
go at it.
themselves, let them take care of everything, right? But it ended up causing a strife, right? So what ended up happening is that we now have a three-way war, right? This thing is escalating every moment. We have the vampires versus the moo casters versus the moon casters, right? And no one knew which one was going to win out. So the moon casters realized that they needed to do more. Okay. We actually know the names of some of these mooncasters, right? They're actually mentioned heavily in the lore. We have Maria Volkov, right? She is actually the mother of another one of the Volkovs that I forget right now, which I kind of hate myself for forgetting. Christopher Volkov, who is actually the leader of the Moonwood Collective, I want to say.
Volkov.
Yeah,
Volkov.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce his last name.
I think it's Volkov. I'm not sure, but I could be wrong. And then we had, of course, Yina Kai, who unfortunately is deceased. And then we had probably the most famous ones, which was Gregorius and Alvina Lovnik. Okay. We actually know Gregorius. Everyone kind of knows him as Greg in Moonwood Mill. He is actually one of the ancient leaders of the Mooncasters, right? And his story is extremely sad, and we'll talk about that, I think, in just a minute. But suffice to say that they knew that in order for them to turn the tide of war for them, they needed to find another source of power, right? So the leaders went up to the Howling Point in Moonwood Mill, and they decided to cast a powerful, untamed magic spell in an effort to harness the power of the moon, right? This ensuing spell was so prominent that it shook Moonwood Mill. It infused the nearby lake with lunar energy, and it turned the Mooncasters into werewolves. And thus
Dang.
werewolves were born into the Sims timeline, right? Which I think is incredible. Again, these are just little things that never get talked about.
That's
That is
crazy.
just
So the spellcasters
Yeah.
is basically
Mhm.
responsible for vampires in the werewolves.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
crazy.
And they're all super related to each other. And it actually explains why they seem to dislike one another so much,
Mm.
right? Their lore is really sort of intertwined, right?
Also, to
That's
tie
crazy.
in aliens as well, a part of me is curious if Keisha and Elphaba are like part alien of some kind, just with their look. Also, I know aliens aren't aren't spellcasters, but like there has to be some sort of ties there because Evelina was crucial in discovering Sixum.
Yes, that's
So
right.
yeah.
hmm No, 100%. I think that there's undiscovered lore there with their
Yeah.
connection to aliens. I think, unfortunately, nothing like official, but I think that you can tie those points really, really easily. I think,
Yeah.
right? Well, so this untethered magic that they cast didn't end just in Moonwood Mill, right? Unfortunately, it went so far as to cause such a rift that it rippled through Moonwood Mill, rippled through Glimmerbrook, and ripped into the magic realm. And it was inside of the magic realm that this spell broke the magic realm into pieces, and the magic realm was quickly going to perish, right? So that answers another question. Why is the magic realm in pieces? But because of the Mooncasters who cast this spell. This also explains why the spellcasters have a particular distaste for werewolves, because they destroyed their home, right?
F those mooncasters, man.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, right? So three very prominent spellcasters at the time that this occurred. As Disney had mentioned, we have Ethan Reyes, Keisha Hughes, and Tess Dyer, who they actually used their power of magic to try to contain this blast from destroying the magic realm. And in doing so, they were actually able to stop and quell the actual explosion, but they can't stop it forever. I think that's the important thing to remember. They are literally holding it at bay. And if there aren't one of them to keep it going, the whole thing will just explode. Like it'll just continue its destruction and fade away. So those three spellcasters were named the Sages, they were responsible for keeping the magic realm together. Time passed, of course, and they needed to pass on the throne, or if you will, of responsibility to their next individuals, and that's where we got Simeon, Morgan, and Elphaba to take over, right? So I think a lot of people, and again, this is why I asked about spellcasters, that a lot of people often go, oh, well, I made a Sims character because I want to be able to be like the next sage. So like I'm the mentor of Elphaba. Exactly, right? And they might not know what actually that responsibility really means as far as the story is concerned, because you are holding this entire like mini dimension in place as the sage of either
Absolutely.
mischief practical or anything like that, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the general root of it. And I think that's why when we had this conversation, I felt like this was a very interesting topic, because the spellcasters are the genesis of everything. Now, we can go deeper in future episodes about werewolves and vampires, but everything spins off from this, right? This one moment, the Operation Eternal Flame, all of it kind of keeps going. And as we know, unfortunately, at the end of Operation Eternal Flame, spellcasters were effectively the winners, right? The vampires kind of dwindled away to Forgotten Hollow, and the werewolves kind of became infighting between themselves, which unfortunately is their main storyline, which we can talk about. And then the spellcasters just retreated into the magic realm to just kind of keep themselves going. So it's a kind of a bittersweet story.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like we should save the Mooncasters, like in going into who they are, for another podcast, because I
Yeah, for
feel like
sure.
we can talk about them and vampires as their own thing.
Yeah.
But I would love to get into the characters of Glimmerbrook. So
Mhm.
there's different the Tomex and Grace and Nasty would be awesome to talk about. And then the Charm family is really cool as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So yeah, there's, I believe, three distinct neighborhoods three distinct families in Glimmerbrook, right? We have the Charm family, right? And then we also have, in fact, I'm pulling it up because I want to make sure that we have some
I
information
thought there was
about
only
that.
two.
Hmm?
I thought there was only two. What's the third one?
There's a Charm
Are you,
family.
are you
No, you're
counting?
right. You're right. You're right. No,
Yeah,
I
you're
was I
counting
was
the family as separate.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I was. Yes.
Okay.
So we have the Charm family, and then we have the Amicable Acolytes, right? Um, so yeah, the Charm family is one of those families that have apparently been creating spellcasters, like dignified, prominent spellcasters for generations, right? They're kind of like the Malfoys of this world, right? Where they're just generating all these individuals, right? And it's a family of high expectations, right? Minerva, of course, being like the matriarch of that family, expects a whole lot of her children, right? Um, they and the children themselves, they want to be powerful, they want to be respected, they want to gain prominence, and can they live up to mommy's ideals, right? That's and I said mommy and daddy today, and I feel really bad.
It's okay.
This is 18 and up crowd, so you're good.
100%. There are no
Yeah.
children here.
Right. And I think the interesting thing about it, right, is that in the Charm family you have Amelia Ernest, right? And that's a very interesting play on words, because earnest means like someone who's very affable or trying to be like, sincere and liked or whatever. And that's kind of at the root of her character. Like she just wants to be like accepted into this very prominent family, right? She's also just adorable.
Yes.
She's got the
Yeah.
Karen haircut.
I would love to know what it was like when she first joined the school, because apparently Tomax and Daryl were both fighting over her.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
yeah, interesting
Mama.
to know how that turned out. Well, I mean, we know how it turned out. She ended up getting engaged to Daryl. And Gemma is awesome. I love Gemma. I feel like she's like an Elphaba in the making.
Yeah, so there's actually indications that the individuals in Glimmerbrook were actually sort of like the prodigies of the existing sages, right? And who they are really kind of depends on how you observe it, right? But really that's kind of what it's assumed, right?
So who do you think's taking over then, in your opinion?
So honestly, it's Daryl.
What?
Yeah, he's new, he's ascended, but he's the promising duelist.
Okay.
Why do you disagree? Tell
Disney
me.
does not agree with you. I'm just
Tell me.
throwing
Tell
that
me
out
why.
there.
Tell me why. Tell me why.
I think Grace.
Why Grace?
I don't know. I feel like she's like a Morgan Ember in the making.
Because she's prominent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe there's three, and then it would be Amelia, Daryl, and maybe Grace. But I don't. What about Tomax? I don't know. Tomax doesn't seem to really be doing much.
Yeah, but the two of them, like all three of them, are still very much learning. So you can't really say for sure. They're trying to become adept spellcasters. They're still at the beginning of their run.
Yeah.
I think when I see Daryl, I think why I think that they could be a sage is because number one, and I know this is silly, but Amelia is actually acquainted with Morgan, right?
Yeah.
So I'm to me, I'm like, hey, there's some like, PR involved here. Maybe they know a person or two,
Um, In my Townie Tales, I have them all divvied up into different houses.
Mhm.
So I have Daryl and Gemma are in Mischief with
Mhm.
Elphaba. I have Grace and Amelia in Untamed Magic, and then I have Tomax in Practical.
Okay, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I noticed too in my legacy, my 7th gen. I think the Charm family is in there, obviously in their like 5th or 6th gen, and they married into my villain family,
Oh
and so
wow.
that's why I have spellcasters. Now that I'm thinking about it,
I
me
see.
not
That's how.
realizing that Charm family is actually legit, like pre-made characters or whatever.
Oh
So
really? So
yeah,
it just
yeah.
kind of bled
So
in there. That's incredible.
yeah. I was like, Charm. Okay, cool. All right, I'll go with it. Yeah. So.
I
Gotcha.
also
Yeah.
feel like their last name plays homage to like the TV show Charmed.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that I thought that was cute. There's actually also did you know that there was some drama in regards to spellcasters when it first came out?
No.
I heard
No.
about that.
Yeah, so the existing sages, right? As I mentioned earlier, just to reiterate it, they were called Morgan, Elphaba, and Simeon, right? But the game's artwork and the game's kind of like when it was coming out, it actually featured the other three, Ethan Reyes, Keisha, and Tess Dyer, right? They were
Yeah.
actually the ones in like the marketing material, right? So when that came out, people were like, what?
What happened?
Right? So it was very confusing. And you can get them on the gallery now, but that's why there was that kind of inconsistency there. And also Tess Dyer, right? If you take a look at her model, and I really suggest that you all do if you haven't seen her, she's very interesting looking. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is that she's very like gothy. Like she has like full like tattoos and everything. Like she's a vibe, right?
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that she actually had a separate name that was confirmed by The Sims, and then they just changed it without telling anybody. Like
What was it gonna be?
yeah, I think it was supposed to be Anasi or something like that. Let me pull it up.
Oh, which tracks? They probably then changed it to be Grace's last name instead.
Yes.
Because they're paying homage. I can't remember what Anasi means, but it's paying homage to something. I've read about it before.
Oh no. So I was wrong. So Twitter after the trailer, right? The Sims Twitter said her name is Aine. So A with the umlaut, INE was her name. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, right? And yeah, and then they just changed it to Tess Dyer, right? So like the entire community was kind of like, why did you change it? Like, what's going on? Was this like a faux pas? Did you misspeak? Like, where did this name come from? And to this day, they haven't really explained it. They haven't.
Something else that's interesting. So Keisha Hughes is no longer a spellcaster. When you look at her, she's actually been turned back into a human. So she decided not to live this life anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they gave it up. They gave it
Yeah.
up. I don't know why you would, but you did.
Yeah, but she did.
What you think of that, Stas?
Hell no. I
It's
dream
crazy,
of having
right?
magic powers all the time. There's no way I'm gonna be like, man, I'm gonna go back to washing dishes. Fuck that. Just saying.
No, I agree with you. But yeah, I mean, you can imagine that, like, the weight of responsibility, right? Like I would love to have superpowers and use magic, but I think I would be burdened by how many people I could help at any given time, that I wouldn't just be able to be like selfish about it. You know what
I want to learn how to ride a broom. That's like priority numero uno.
when I was in college, my college actually had a Quidditch team, and no disrespect, but that was just the weirdest thing to watch, man. Like, it was just.
Was it weird being the captain?
They would just run around with brooms, and I used to sit there like, oh, bless your heart, man.
That's funny.
That's funny.
Jealous. You didn't make the team.
No, I didn't. Exactly.
You didn't try. You didn't try hard enough.
Yeah, I
That's
didn't
what it
try hard
was.
enough, unfortunately. I could never be a bludger, unfortunately.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and you know, I think the general like the heart of spellcasters, I believe, is I feel like they could have done a better job at putting this story in front of people, and I think they would have gotten a much better reception, right? Um, Obviously, spellcasting was great from a practical sense, like being able to do duels or cast magic and all these different things, but they didn't really flesh out the world and this story as best they could, right? And I think that made that again, it's a continued conversation. I think this is going to be like the my main point throughout all these episodes is that the Sims 4 has lore. It's just not put together well enough for you. You know what I mean? It's
Well
just
said, Lord Daddy.
Yes.
exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
now you're an EA network creator. Maybe they'll
Exactly.
listen to you now.
Exactly. I need to contact them and be like, please, I can
Yeah.
help.
Let me write for you. I can help.
Exactly. No, but honestly, it they could have made it more prominent. They could have made it more just available. um I think that there would be an argument that, oh, if you want the lore you need to go looking for it or whatever. But I feel like that's a little bit of a cop out. Like, I don't think everyone's gonna go and like read every little book that's there and like pull everything out, you know what I mean? But being able to there's so many statues in the magic realm. Just have one be click and say examine, and then a little thing pops up that tells you everything you need to know, and then you're like, all right, great, awesome, that makes total sense, thank you, and you can just move on. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's kind of what they're missing here. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It to me, it's incredibly interesting. There's so much to go there, and what happens to the magic realm, right? Like, what becomes of them? Like, what would your playthrough be like, right? Would you let the sages just lose and have the magic realm be destroyed, or do you try to keep it going no matter what? Like, that's kind of at the heart of it. Like, what would you do to keep it going, right? So that's the fun of it.
I'm straight up Thanosing everything.
Just
Thanos.
restarting it. Just
Big
rebooting the
Thanos.
whole situation. Got it. Yeah, that's fair. But I also felt like Glimmerbrook was a little disappointing as well. Like, it was
Yeah,
very
yes.
small.
Small
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
I felt like they didn't really put any effort into it.
Mhm,
Yeah, the
Like,
pub was trash. No offense to whoever built that.
yeah, it was very limiting. There weren't a whole lot of lots. The market area is beautiful, right? Like, the
Yes.
little like place where you can go, and like the bar is there, or the pub or whatever. That's
Oh, and
wonderful.
walking down to the
Yeah.
portal is
Yeah.
gorgeous, especially
Yeah.
at night. I love that. I've
Mhm.
used that so many times in scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's wonderful, but they could have expanded it a little bit more. I think if you release a whole new world and you've got a whole two households, you didn't try hard enough.
yeah,
You
for
know
20
what I-
bucks at that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah,
EA.
yeah,
Come on,
exactly.
guys.
You could have just done like a little bit
Yeah.
more. Honestly, kind of like separate conversation, but like I hope that they do more with like the townies and expand on them moving forward. So yeah.
Also, I felt like they could have done a better job on the Realm of Magic lot too. Like, I always go in there and like enable free build, and then I go build an actual Realm of Magic that I want to use. And like,
You-
I basically
yeah.
I make Hogwarts again. Like, I
Exactly,
make
exactly.
bedrooms and stuff.
You'd be surprised how many people don't know that there's like 3 different places you can go, because it has
Yeah.
that portal mechanic that no one really knows about. So you like zone into like the main little like like the little like school, and then like, oh, this is nice, bye, and then you just leave
Dip
when you
out.
don't
Yeah.
because you don't see the rest of it,
Yeah.
So they could have been a little better with that.
I like the perk
Yeah.
system though. I think I'll
Yeah.
give Max's or Sims in general credit on behalf of like their occult perk systems, especially with Rims. I felt like it was really cool being able to mold your own spellcaster how you kind of like want it based on the perk system. I thought they did great on that, and also with the werewolves and what's the other one I'm missing? Vampires.
Yeah, I think that again, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that spellcasters, you can actually become one in the game, right? Like you actually have to
Yes.
go to a stage and you can like outside of create a sim or whatever, right? So I believe that I mean it's kind of like a little silly fetch quest, like collect a couple of motes and then come back and then you'll be a spellcaster. You know what I mean? Like it's a little it's a little simple. But yeah, I mean the freedom to do with it I think was great. I think like all the occults making it kind of like tedious of like, oh, just like sit there and cast spells and that's how you can level up to cast magic. I think that's a little bit of a cop out, because that's what everyone did to level up their skills. Is like, I'm just gonna sit here and practice magic as often as I can. I'm just gonna sit there and use magic. Like I would have liked them to make it a little bit more interactive. Like if you want to level up your magic, then go read books or go, do this or do that or whatever, right? I think that would have been a little bit more fun.
They kind of do that with vampires, though, right?
Yes,
where you have to read the book and all that. But
yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
I wonder why they didn't do that with magic, just to make it a little bit more exciting. I don't know.
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know.
Question.
And $20 down the drain, man. Go ahead. Sorry. Getting a little passionate about it.
Absolutely. I respect it.
Unless you get it from Instant Gaming, use
my affiliate link, cuz. Use my affiliate link. Sorry, this ain't my podcast. My bad, Stassi. My bad.
I allow it. It's fine.
Delete that part. Just mute me.
Oh goodness. All right.
That was
Moment
good.
of awkwardness.
I love the interactions between vampires and werewolves, or sorry, mooncasters and spellcasters. Like the supernatural brawl is funny to see. The different animations for dueling is really good as well.
It makes me so angry that they basically confirm in the lore that there's such a thing as a werewolf spellcaster, and then they don't let you be one.
Yeah.
Like I know that there's CC out there that they've actually implemented mooncasters. If you Google like mooncaster CC, you'll actually see it. But like that would have been such an awesome win to be able to be like a werewolf, and then if like you do like a special thing, you can unlock becoming a spellcaster also. That would have been so much fun. Oh my god, I would love that.
Do you know, and I probably not a lot on the subject, if there's any lore that ties in spellcasters having relationships with mermaids at all?
It's a very good question. In my process, I've never really encountered anything about it. Thus far, the lore around mermaids has really stayed in Sulani as far as I've seen, right? So unfortunately, it hasn't really expanded much about it. I'm gonna look into it now, though. Now I'm just curious how far that rabbit hole goes, or that fish hole goes, I guess.
Yeah. We'll talk about Sulani on another day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Cool. Awesome.
But now y'all know. Now y'all know everything there is to know about spellcasters.
Yeah.
Next time you make a character, yeah.
Motivate me to go back into one of my save files and continue on with the spellcaster legacy that I got going on right now.
Did you know this little I should have mentioned this earlier, but there's a little Easter egg in Forgotten Hollow where a spellcaster can actually destroy the statue of Vlad, right, using untamed magic. And that's actually a little Easter egg. Like at the center of the Forgotten Hollow, there's a Vlad statue. And if you actually go there with a spellcaster, you'll see the ability to use incinerate or whatever to destroy Vlad's statue. And it's just a callback to that ancient struggle between them. So it's actually pretty cool.
Y'all leave Vlad alone, man.
Yeah, Daddy Vlad, he's our daddy.
I let him in every single time. Every single time I let him into my house.
As you should.
Yes.
He's just thirsty. He just needs to eat.
He's just come to say hi.
Absolutely. Oh goodness. Poor vampires.
Oh, I can't wait to talk vampires on the next one because it's so interesting who turned who and yeah, it's awesome.
Well, that was to say, go ahead.
No, please.
I was gonna say, well, I think this is a perfect place to wrap up this podcast. and get us excited for the next one, which will be vampires. I
That's
want to
right.
thank you all for coming here today. Thank you, Gonz, for showing us and teaching us about spellcasters. It is
Of course.
I am the girl that makes mac and cheese in the cauldron. Okay. So I am the least qualified person to ever talk about spellcasters.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming here and
My
sharing.
back hurts from carrying these podcasts.
I know, right? Hey, you gonna be strong after this, friend.
Yeah.
You're gonna be hella strong carrying us.
Right.
Well, piggyback rides, you know?
I've collected all this information for so long, so being able to share it in this forum, I think is fantastic, right? And more so, it's great to be able to just talk about it than having to make interesting content out of it, actual images and everything. That's hard. So being able to just kind of
Literally look like you just work for EA. No wonder they summoned you.
Exactly.
Signed, ready to go.
Look us up with those discount codes, man.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it's gonna happen. Yep.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, you are a great friend to have.
I am not gonna post pictures on our Instagram group chat about expansions. That's ridiculous. I'm not gonna do that. That's crazy.
No, never.
Mute that part out, Stas.
Yeah.
As his legal representative, he may or may not. There is no proof. Well, thank you guys so much for coming here today, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge of spellcasters. Why don't we do a quick round of where we can find you, and the man of the hour, you tell us, where can we find you, Gonz?
Of course, yeah. You can find me on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram at Mynameisgonz.
I love it. Disney baby girl, where can we find you?
Mostly on Instagram at the Disney Sims and Towny Tales, but I'm kind of on TikTok and Threads too. Disney Sims, if you wanted to download my Disney princesses.
Oh, for sure.
I love that. And Nard, I didn't say this earlier. Congratulations on hitting 200,000 on TikTok.
Wow.
That is such a high achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate
it.
Where can we find you?
You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, aka X, YouTube, Reddit, OnlyFans, and what else? Facebook, Reddit, MySpace, ICQ, and AIM.
Only Sims.
I'm also
Only Sims.
all things Nardvillian, and then Instagram is Nard Sims.
I love it.
See his maid costume, guys.
Oh boy.
Only Sims. I'm out in San Mashuno. Just kidding.
Well,
if you had any sponsors, and I'm so sorry. That's
okay.
Time,
this is a sponsor-free one. It's fine.
Never coming back.
Just invoice me the money you lost. Just invoice me the money you lost this one.
I'm just gonna change this right here to just say brand risk right here.
Yeah, exactly. Just blur it out. Well, thank you guys so much for coming here. Please go check out everybody. The links are going to be below. If you like this podcast, please consider liking and subscribing. Please go follow me on Instagram. I just hit 10K, which is a huge accomplishment. It's something I've been working for almost 3 years now. So excited. Please stay tuned to my Instagram page. That's for the podcast, as I have a special project coming out in about a week from now. So please stay tuned to that. And go check out the Reaper. I play Amy. Please go check out Davenport. I also play Amy. And I think that's it. Oh, if you like youth novels and you're like, I have no time on my hands, what do I do with my life? Go check out the Rose Chronicles. It is my Sims graphic novel. We are 140 chapters in, and we will have more chapters back next year. So in the meantime, this is a great time to catch up. And I think this is everything. Yes, because I'm trying to think of the things I can plug. But this is coming out Sunday. And it's a little far out before Sunday before I can start plugging more things. But please go check out everybody on this call, and love you all, and have a great rest of your night. Bye, everyone.
Bye.